Hello, friends! I hope that you have been keeping well and enjoying your October. The footage you're looking at right now is from a gorgeous little hike Kelsey and I took. It was right before sunset one evening. I think this was a Friday night. And we took Parker out to this little area called River Lot 56. And it was just beautiful. There was just a few autumn leaves left on the trees. We were kind of soaking in the last little bit of autumn colors, as now by the time I'm recording this, all of our leaves are pretty barren up here in Alberta. But yeah, it was a gorgeous hike. I'm glad I got some footage to remember the last bits of autumn by. So up here in the Great White North, we celebrate Thanksgiving on the second Monday in October, usually, as far as I know. So this year it fell on October 11th. And I have been wanting to try my hand at making pies for a while now. I really don't know why I wanted to make pies, because I don't really even like pie that much. Like, if you give me the choice between cake and pie, I will pretty much always choose cake, unless it's pumpkin pie. And if cookies are involved, that's pretty much always my first choice, except pumpkin pie. I just love pumpkin pie. Anyways, yeah, but for some reason, something about making pie from scratch really sounded interesting to me, and I decided that Thanksgiving was the perfect reason to make a couple of pies. I made the ridiculous choice of baking 2 pies from scratch for the first time in one weekend. I'm pretty sure I spent a total of at least 8 hours working on these 2 pies and making the crust from scratch, but it was so worth it. They both turned out really well, which you will see, and unfortunately you can't taste them, but those of us who tasted it can vouch that yes, they did also taste delicious. So while my pies turned out pretty tasty, in the end they did not come to exist without some goofy mistakes along the way. The biggest one being that, so I needed to blind bake the crust for the pumpkin pie, which means you bake it in the oven first so that it's cooked all the way through, so that you don't have to worry about it cooking enough when you put the filling in. And I knew that you were supposed to put parchment paper and rice or something like that inside to hold its shape while you do that, but I completely forgot that step and it started to sag down. But luckily I saved it in time, so it started out like this, and then the crust ended up looking more like this after I blind baked it. But you can see that the final result turned out good. The crust is just a little bit wonky on the sides. So I spent Sunday afternoon making the pie crust and letting them cool, and then using that to make the pumpkin pie. And I baked that because I felt like pumpkin pie would just be better even if it had been sitting in the fridge for a day. And then the apple I made fresh on the Thanksgiving Monday morning. And while I was making it, I was complaining to Kelsey that it was like the most complex thing I think I've ever baked. Other than sourdough bread, Like that one was, I've only done that once and I want to do it more, but it was very, like there was a lot of complex steps to follow, but this also had a lot of complex steps, and a lot of the steps were so time intensive and you had to be really careful about like letting everything stay cold. Like you had to make sure that the dough you're working with was cold, and if you were going to leave it out for too long, it had to go in the freezer. So I was running up and down from the kitchen to the downstairs freezer trying to keep everything cold. So I was like sweating like a maniac by the time I was done, but it was so good. It was so worth it. Actually, you know what? To tell you the truth, I think the thing that made me want to make apple pie is so I could make a lattice like this. Something about it I've just always wanted to do. And I'm so excited about how good mine turned out on my first try. I couldn't believe it, but look at it. Isn't she beautiful? I'm just so proud of her. So if you aren't also an artist slash illustrator who is actively on Instagram, you might not know that October is like the month for drawing challenges on Instagram. I'm not really totally sure why. I know it has something to do with the fact that like Inktober was a big thing, and it's just kind of developed into lots of other options for drawing challenges. But I've only been drawing very actively and seriously for maybe about a year, and I was really busy with school last October, so I didn't participate in any challenges. So this year, all year, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be gung-ho and like get on top of and participate in a bunch of drawing challenges, and it's gonna be great. And then the beginning of October happened, and I just kind of fell into this slump with my art where I kind of came to terms with the fact that I have not been practicing art for decades like a lot of the people I follow, and I just don't have the raw skills that I want to have to get to where I want to be. And I know that I'm on the path to where I want to be. I just know I don't have the skills yet to help me get to where I want to go. So I won't say too much more about that because I did talk about it a bit in my last video, but I was going to do the October drawing challenges and then kind of sat back on it. But then I decided to sit down and kind of do as many of them as possible that I had missed, as a way of kind of like still getting to participate, but kind of sticking with my personal goal of doing more practice-focused drawing rather than like performance or final piece focused kind of drawing, if that makes sense. Like when I make an illustration that I'm going to post on Instagram, I'm very much focused on what the final product is going to look like, and I am thinking about other people seeing it. But what I mean is that I'm doing a lot more stuff where I'm like not really worried about other people seeing it. And this wasn't initially going to be something that other people were going to see, but then I ended up being happy enough with it that after I did the sketches on the first day, decided to film doing the tracing and the fine liner and doing the coloring on this day that you're seeing now. So as I was mentioning, the inspiration for these sketches all came from drawing prompts from challenges on Instagram. If you are looking for some drawing challenges to do for the rest of October and you're curious which ones I used, just go to my post on Instagram. I tagged all of the artists in their drawing challenges on there. I honestly just can't say enough good things about art challenges. They're such a great way to like give you inspiration when you don't know what to draw, and it's the best way I've found to get outside of my comfort zone and draw something that I wouldn't have ever thought to draw before, and it gives me a reason to do it. This little cabin in the woods scene that you can't see super well right now, but you'll see better shots of it later. This was really a stretch outside of my comfort zone. I do not draw scenes or landscapes or like anything like that very often, but I really wanted to push myself to do it because I was doing it for practice and it's something that I want to get better at. So I just like looked up a picture of a cabin and tried to draw that as closely as I could, and I tried to do like a tree in the foreground that you can see the details of like some moss and mushrooms growing on the side of it. And so like that's kind of supposed to be in the foreground, and you're kind of looking around the tree and seeing this cabin. And I think I did it justice, at least to what I had in my head, which is a big success for me, because I have had a hard time even representing what I have in my mind in like a drawing of a scene in the past. So it was really good practice. I went with Copic markers to color in this project because I had recently watched a video from Jenny Journals where she did a sketchbook page like this and colored it with Copic markers, and it was so beautiful and I was very inspired. So I busted out my Copic markers, which are one of my favorite traditional mediums to use. I just love how blendable they are, and I think part of the reason why I love them so much is they were really user-friendly. Like, even from my first few times using them, I was creating stuff that I was really happy with, and it was really easy to get nice, blendy, layered effects from them. I think my absolute favorite thing that I drew on this spread was my little soup ghost. He was the result of, I was just trying to do soup, and I was gonna just draw some steam on the soup, and then the way that I like tried to draw the steam, it looked like little arms coming up, and so I just went with it and drew a little face, and he turned into a soup ghost. And those are my favorite kinds of art projects, is when you start out with one thing and then by a happy accident it becomes something else that you love. I love this guy so much, actually, that I'm turning it into a full like digital illustration of its own, which I am currently in the process of working on. So it will possibly be on my Instagram feed by the time you're watching this. Maybe not, but he'll be there, I promise. This kind of ghostly looking lady at the bottom was a result of the prompt invisible, and when I thought invisible, well, I also kind of like the ghost sort of went with invisible too, but when I was thinking invisible, the first thing that came to mind was feeling invisible even when you're not, because you might not be getting the recognition or attention from people around you that you want. So I wanted her to have that kind of expression of being kind of abandoned or left out, and I think I captured that pretty well. I'm getting better at drawing facial expressions in my stylized way, but I really like how I was able to kind of make her kind of like a ghost too, and kind of both literally and figuratively represent invisible. Now I'm just going back in and adding kind of some finishing touches of, with Copics you can kind of layer them, and once it's dry, if you go back in and do some more, it adds just a darker layer of the color you already started with, which is part of the reason I love them. It makes it so easy to shade things. But yeah, just going back in to add a bit of shading, and I used a white Jelly Roll pen to add a couple of details here and there, but I really love the color palette that I ended up with for these pieces. It's nice and earthy and fall. My favorite things. It's become an October tradition that my friends and I go out to this event called Dark at Fort Edmonton Park. They have roving entertainment of people dressed in spooky costumes and doing magic shows and things like that. And the main feature of Dark is that they have 3 haunted houses that are super interactive and super well done. It's just always such a great time, and it's probably one of my favorite things about October. So enjoy this fun but spooky footage.